the Mets, meet the Mets. Step right up and greet the Mets. Bring your kiddies, bring your wife. Guaranteed to have the time of your life, because the Mets are really sucking the ball, knocking those home runs over the wall. East side, west side, everybody's coming down to meet the METS Mets from New York town. Oh, the butcher and the baker and the people on the streets, where they go to meet the Mets. Oh, they're hollering and cheering and they're jumping in their seats, where they go to meet the Mets. All the fans are true to the orange and blue, so hurry up and come on down, because we got ourselves a ball of the Mets of New York town. Give them a yell, give them a hand, and let them know you're rooting in the stand.
Hi, everybody. This is the Baseball Hut, the amazing, spectacular, terrific, the great one, the people's champion, your host, the Hut. And here we are live from New York City. And of course, please subscribe to the Baseball Hut and like the video. And hopefully, we talk about the Mets for a little bit. Say hello to the chat. The Mothman Evolved, Pat Cole, Robert Simeon, Jack in the Box. Now, I put something different into the chat. It's sort of a way to avoid some of the bots that tend to come into these live streams a little bit. And so, if you're new to the channel, you can't really leave any comments unless you subscribe first. And that's sort of, but it's more that's for the bots than anything else. But just to let people know if you see something new on here. Hello, Anthony. Read a comment. It does sound like they're going to spend a lot of money. I just hope whoever they bring in here is some difference, not guys that underwhelm the fan base. Well, isn't that the hope for every team? That's the hope for every team. Anthony says Kevin Gausman does not excite me. Well, he's a number 4 starter now, and he is coming from a team that won 107 games. It's funny you should mention him. So, the Mets did not get Steven Matz today, which is just as well. I was not big on Steven, even when he was here. I was not a big fan of his. And let me show you Gausman's numbers are very similar to Steven's, but he actually affected more games than Steven did. Let me take you to his baseball reference page. Let me just take down my screen thingy. And meanwhile, please like this video and subscribe. Let's see here. Get that down. There we go. There's Kevin. Here we go. Everything's running slow. As you know, I do not have dial-up. I used to have dial-up for a long time, by the way. But Would not have that here with us. That's for sure. So here's Gausman's numbers. Gausman, Kevin Gausman. So last year he was 14-6 with a wins above replacement of 5.4. Now this team did win 107 games, so he did not get a qualifying offer. Um, he did not get a qualifying offer attached to his free agency because he signed last year. He took the qualifying offer last year from the Giants, and he uh, took another year to do well, and he had a very good year. He led the league in game starts, which Marcus Stroman did. We're talking about Marcus too. I'm going to take a different approach. Most people don't have the approach I have when it comes to these things. Um, so he's 64-72. He's very similar in terms of the numbers with um, the Steven. So, but he had a very good last year. Uh, now, let me go through a couple things here. He struck out 227 batters. It's very high. I didn't realize it was that high. Sixth in the Cy Young Award voting, MVP. 22nd in the MVP vote. Sixth in Cy Young Awards. Sixth in the Cy Young Award voting. Very interesting. He's a bit of an innings compiler, which is kind of what you want to have a fourth and fifth starter. That's what he would be here. Um, and that's what Steven would have been. He's going to do a couple things. So really, prior to that, his last best year, at least in terms of in terms of pitching well, in terms of the innings, was 2018. Now those teams in Baltimore were not very good, especially at the back end of those years. Uh, I have no issue with bringing him in here because of the fact that if you're gonna bring in Steven in here, he's very similar to Steven, except he's right-handed. Uh, I know that, and I did a video on the other channel on the Baseball Hut too, that Steve Cohen was not too happy by what had happened. What had happened was the um, agent for Steven Matz had gone to the Mets and said, "I want to, Steven's interested in coming back, but we want to talk directly to Steve Cohen." And Steve talked to the agent, and then Steven then went and talked to Steve Cohen, and everything seemed to be fine. Now the talk was over the last 24 hours that the Mets were going to sign him. The Mets seemed very confident that they were going to bring in Steven, and that did not happen, obviously. And the thing is that what was weird about last night, and I mentioned this in my video, which I did early this morning. I need to check it out on Steven, is the fact that they announced it so late. I mean, it's 12:30 at night. They don't normally do that. Usually, they do this during the day, maybe 10 o'clock. Something that I sort of focus in on. So if you're on Twitter, 99% of the time, uh, the media don't start working until 9 o'clock. That's the beginning of the business day. They don't really start tweeting until 9 o'clock in the morning, or Eastern Standard Time. Between 9 and 12, depending on the team, depending on where they are, they don't tweet until around 9 o'clock, the beginning of the business day, and they'll go until 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. But this thing with the Steven happened at 12:30 at night, and I was like, that was a little unusual. So obviously the Mets had this Zoom meeting with Steven and Steve Cohen. It went off well, and I guess the Mets got blindsided because they told Steven that if he gets an offer from another team, come back to us, and we'll match the offer and even do a better um, a job on it. Well, that did not happen. They never came back. So Steve tweeted out this morning. Uh, um, that he was very upset about how the agent treated the club and how they treated him because they went out of their way to talk to um, this talk to Steve. That's a very unusual thing to talk to the owner and demand and ask to talk to the owner and then not have um, a deal. It's very unusual. And this is not against Stevens. I think it's more about the agent, I guess. They sort of mentioned it. But I will point out the agent does work for the players, not the other way around. Um, so that is important to remember. From the Mothman, a couple interesting things. They're not too high on Marcus Stroman, which I am not either, to be honest with you. I'm not a big fan of his. I don't really care for his antics, to be honest with you. Let me just look at a couple of things here. But from Paco, I'm so out on Stroman after what he said about Keith. Now, the Mothman says, "I'm sorry, Hud, just an opinion. I do not want Stroman. I understand about Matz, but wow, his agent is bad." Well, here's the thing about Marcus. Uh, Last winter, I had said the Mets should be very careful about signing Trevor Bauer because he was an effing moron, effing idiot, and I turned out the effing weird. That's what I actually said. He's effing weird, and I turned out to be 100% right. I actually was worse. He was worse than that. Worse than that. An alleged so-called, uh, alleged rapist. Alleged. Thankfully, the Mets did not sign him. And it's funny, over the last 2 weeks, the Mets have been getting pounded. Well, they would have signed him. That's what the media does here. He would have signed with them. So it doesn't matter. It didn't happen. Um, so I'm going to say this about Stroman. I don't think he's not as bad as um he's not as bad as Bauer, but Stroman he is too I'm trying to find the right word to describe him. Too woke. I think he did not he had a good year, but you look at the 10 and 13, that's not great, you know. I mean, he did start all his games. But I felt like at times that if you were a bad team, would be something that um that's it. SO Rock says it right there, toxic. That's it. You know. I think that the way the Mets clubhouse was in 2021, there's something not right in that clubhouse. Something is not right in that clubhouse. I think um, Chili Davis had said that a couple weeks ago, saying that there was something wrong within the Mets clubhouse that was making it very difficult for them to do well. And I'm not putting all the blame on Marcus because he did make all his starts. Um, he was a great defensive pitcher. He should have won the Gold Glove. To be fair, he didn't even get a sniff. He didn't even get a chance to do that. So it was very surprising that he didn't win that. But he is. That's the best way to describe it. I think he is toxic. I think that's the best word to describe him. Um, it's just a bad mix in that clubhouse, and obviously they're going to need a manager. We haven't heard anything about the manager. I'm sure there's something going on. Um, Mothman involved something deep down inside. He's pointing at Sandy Olsen. Why? This guy's had a great reputation in the game. That's all made up. That's all made up nonsense from the media. Don't believe everything the media says. A lot of reason that we're having a lot of problems here in bringing the people is the fact that New York is in bad shape. The state's in bad shape. The city's in even worse shape. Um, and here's the thing about Stephen Matz. He lives in Nashville. Uh, he lives in Nashville, so he wasn't living on Long Island. And I want to mention this too. The Yankees are not going after any free agents. No one's even talking about the Yankees here in New York. They're all talking about the Yankees aren't going to be in on these big shortstops. That Yankee team needs a shortstop. The Yankees need a shortstop in the worst way, and they're all talking about these prospects that they have. They're not even close to being ready. So there's no like rumors with the Yankees in terms of what they're going to put, in that shortstop position. Nothing. They said they're monitoring this Corey Seager. That seemed to be like the perfect fit for the Yankees. Is Corey Seager? Left-handed bat, big time player. Great in the big spot, great in the World Series. He is the perfect Yankee. And we've heard nothing. We've heard nothing about him. We've nothing about Carlos Correa. Nothing. Hello, Robert. Matz is terrible, and Stroman isn't as good as he thinks he is. I like Este's video. We'll get Castillo and Gausman. Here's the thing about Castillo: you have to give a ball out for him, and the price is going to be very high. Mets don't have the farm system. Hello, Nelson Cruz. He's back to Nelson Cruz. What's that all about? You change your name more than I do. Nelson Cruz. You change your name more than I do. Sheesh. Captain Obvious, Nelson Cruz. What's up with that? Aaron says they should get Sonny and Johnny Gray. Well, first of all, I did a video on the other channel. It's funny you should mention Sonny Gray. I did a video on him on the other channel and talked about how there's rumors that he's on the block as well. But the Mets are talking about making trades for veteran players that have bad contracts and they get like a prospect in return. That might be something. I did mention in the video Madison Bumgarner, who's got 3 years on his contract. And if they were to do that kind of a deal, you'd be taking a lot of money. But the Mets would have to take a prospect in return. A couple of Mets notes, other things they did today. They picked up a minor league free agent called Nick Plumer, and he's already been put on the Mets top 30 prospect list. He's number 9. So that tells you how bad the Mets farm system is. They cannot make any trades for guys like Luis Castillo. They might not even be able to make any kind of trades with some of those A's pitchers out there in California. They'd be asking a lot for the Met farm system. They also picked off of waivers a reliever from the Rockies, Antonio Santos. So he's just the guy in the somebody in the bullpen, and we'll see. A couple other notes. The Yankees released Clint Frazier. I would not go crazy, but I would look into it. I would not go crazy for him, but I would look into it. He's not very good, but maybe he needs to grow his hair out. I would mention this about Andrew McCutchen. Remember when Andrew McCutchen had the long dreadlocks, and then he cut it for a charity, and after he did that, he wasn't the same. He was never the same after that. He wasn't nearly as good. It's like Samson cut his hair. But going back to Stroman, just to look at him as the pitcher, not so much the personality. Well, I could talk about the personality on the field. He is tenacious, but I noticed that when the teams that he goes up against are bad, he tends to run his mouth a little too much. It seems like when the Mets were going up against good teams like, say, the Yankees or whatnot, he didn't say much. Robert Masachio says, Mauricio McNeil and a pitching prospect. What for Castillo? No. Mets cannot afford to trade any prospects. They may trade McNeil, but they're not trading any prospects under any circumstances. Well, they're gonna they're gonna ask. What are they gonna ask for? They're gonna ask for Francisco Alvarez. What are you gonna do then? You can't trade him. You can't trade Beatty. Mauricio can't be moved. Jin can't be moved. Matt Allen can't be traded. You can't move these guys. The Mets are not making any big trades for any big players. If they make a trade for any players, that guys with bad contracts, they get a prospect in return. If they get if they do any trades, maybe the Mets trade Jeff McNeil for a bunch of prospects. Jeff McNeil is very valuable. You're going to be trading him under low value, but he's got a lot of value. A couple other things. They pushed up they pushed up the non-tender candidates. The candidates were supposed to be up on the first, but because of this whole thing with the deadline on the CBA is going to expire, uh, they pushed up the free agents. So on the 30th, they're going to release all of these players are going to get released as non-tenders. I'm going to run down through a couple names of guys that could be non-tendered candidates for the Mets. Miguel Castro, I don't see them. I see them picking up him on a contract. Sean Reed Foley, I see them picking him up. Mets. Yenzi Diaz, the Mets will pick him up. I would point out about those two. The Mets picked those guys up for Steven Matz. They pitched pretty well. Drew Smith, and maybe a 50-50 chance he gets non-tendered. Robert Gausman, I think there's probably a very good chance that Gausman is probably going to be gone. And of course, nobody will say anything about Robert. You know, Robert will get non-tendered. He'll go someplace like San Diego, pitch great because there's no pressure in San Diego, and then the Padres will come into town, and 90% of the people on Twitter will complain why the Mets let Gazelman go. Guarantee you that. Trevor Williams, that's a 50-50 situation. I don't know. Jordan Yamamoto, again, I don't know what they think about him. Dom Smith. Dom has no position on this team. Dom can't play first with Pete. He had a horrific year. I don't see much improvement going on. He can't play the outfield. And there's a big question mark. I don't fall into the sort of 60 games that he played last year as who he really is as a player. That might be a popular take on Dom, but I'm sticking to that. I'm sticking to that till I'm wrong, and I'm not normally wrong. Jeff McNeil could be non-tender, but I don't see that happening. He's too good to. Robert says send Lugo somewhere else. I think Lugo is a non-tender too, but I think they'll keep him. He's such a weird thing. I don't know what they're doing with him. He did not have a good year. He did not pitch well last year. Pitched pretty lousy, quite frankly. So these are the guys that are going to be out there, and a whole bunch of other players. There's going to be so many players on the market on Tuesday. It's going to be unbelievable. It's going to be unbelievable. Now, they didn't pick up Steven Matz, so he's gone to the Cardinals. He's got a 4-year deal for $44 million. And, the thing is that about Steven is he's a good guy, but it's unfulfilled promise on the mound. And he had no pressure in Toronto. The Mets, there was so much talk the Mets were going to non-tender him last year, and they actually got some quality relievers for him last offseason. So really, and he had a big market. I can't believe the teams that were on him for his contract. The Mets, the Red Sox, the Blue Jays. I'm surprised you go back to the Blue Jays. They said that the Blue Jays offered him 3 years. The Tigers going to be in on all these players this year. The Cubs, the Cardinals, which he went to. The Giants, and of course the Angels. Everyone was saying, "Oh, he's going to go to the Angels." I would mention about the Angels. They had the same record as the Mets. How much better are they after picking up Lupin and Noah? From I agree with Dom's assessment, but the bottom line is he had 950 OPS over 140 games prior to last year. Got to deal him and get something. Well, we'll see. From Robert Dinez, we have 10 days before the lockout, and the Mets and Uncle Steve and Mr. Epler haven't done a thing. He just got the job. Jesus. And it's less than 10 days before the lockout. 7 days. There's going to be so much movement going on. Uncle Steve and GM better get on the horse and start making moves. Well, the GM said he's been very busy. And, of course, he's still looking for a manager. Mets don't have a manager right now. There is rumors that the Mets are talking to the Twins for Tyler Rogers. Taylor Rogers. I'm sorry, Taylor Rogers. He's the, sort of the reliever in Minnesota. Been the closer. I think he was kind of hurt this year. He only pitched 40 games this year. Um, from Aaron, I could be the starting right field. Yeah, in your dreams, you know, in your dreams. And we did mention this the other day. This is Celia Suzuki. Was posted by the Hiroshima Carp. The Mets are one of the teams interested in signing him, along with about three or four other teams. We'll see if he signs. Now, if he doesn't sign before the work stoppage, they push it back when the Major League Baseball comes back. That's pushed back 3 weeks for him, so he'll have another 21 days to sign with a team. But to sort of go through, I guess we can go through this list of free agents that are out there. Let's see. I have a list here of free agents that need to be looked at and discussed. Well, we'll see about Suzuki. I've not seen him, and I'm not looking at these clips on YouTube on him. That's not really the how you judge a player anyway. Judge a player every day. Now this is from MLB.com. This is from yesterday. There's a 2021-22 free agents by position. Go through all these players, I think. Not all of them, but we'll highlight some players here because the Mets need help everywhere right now, and we need to sort of talk about this. Now, please like this video if you haven't already. So here we go. So here we have the catching position. See the players of note. A lot of old guys in the catching position. Yan Gomes, uh, Kurt Suzuki, the Met killer. Chance Cisco, who's been bouncing around. Former Met Robinson Chineros. First base. And here's some interesting names on here. Some rather big names. Brandon Belt, one of the few guys that took the qualifying offer. And he's the one guy that took a qualifying offer and re-signed with the Giants. Freddie Freeman, there was talk the Yankees were interested in him. I don't think he's going to go to the Yankees. I think he's going to stay in Atlanta. I think there's a little quibble with the contract. He wants 6 years. They don't want to give him 6 years. You know, so I don't think that's um, something that's going to be long term. The way he wants it, that I don't know. That is an interesting kind of thing with Freddie because Freddie is probably you know Freddie is probably a future Hall of Famer, and it would be weird that if he would go somewhere else to play, especially in New York of all places. Anthony Rizzo, I think he'll probably stay with the Yankees. I think that's pretty obvious. I think that's an obvious fit. Let's see, Ryan Zimmerman. I'm hearing that he might stay in Washington. I wish he'd retire. Our buddy Todd Frazier's on this list. He's probably going to be done. He played for the Olympic team last year. I don't know what's going to happen with him. Albert Pujols. The talk was that he was probably going to go back to a St. Louis and play for them again. Because the DH. Let me tell you, the lockout is going to be a long lockout. We're going to have a very long lockout. This is probably going to go into February. I'm sad to say. There's no leadership in the commissioner's office at all. Second base, Marcus Semien. Let's see. Somebody mentioned Brad Miller. Brad Miller, that's don't need a first baseman. We're going to play him off the bench. Second base, Marcus Semien. He's one of the big players this year. He has a qualifying offer attached to him. Let's see. Josh Harrison's still out there. It's been connected to him. Should we do the Joe Lowry thing again? I don't think so. Let's see. Matt Carpenter. Jose Peraza. I can't believe how well that guy played here, and they sent him down to the minors. They did some weird things here late in the season. They sent Drury down, who was the Mets' best pinch hitter, and he played most of September in AAA. I couldn't understand that. Meanwhile, you got guys like Dom Smith who's sitting on the bench doing nothing. The former steroid guy, Strange Gordon. He's nothing at this point. Marwin Gonzalez. Eric Sogard, another Met killer. The third baseman. I would get some interesting names here. Some very interesting names. Kyle Seager. I'm sure the Mets are connected to him. Um, there's no offer attached to him. He was let go from the Mariners. The Mariners, he had it last year on contract. He drove in a lot of runs last year, but he did not have a high batting average. It struck out a lot. The big name we're going to hear a lot about, which we haven't heard over the last couple of days, is Chris Bryant. Been very quiet with him. He's not gonna sign with a team until we get to spring training. With Boris, he's gonna milk that until milk that big time. Eduardo Escobar, we'll see. You can play him everywhere. You can play him at third, first, second, DH him. Jonathan Villar, I wouldn't mind the Mets bringing him back. He played really well, but he can't play every day. Matt Duffy, got to keep an open mind about third base. The one thing that's good about Chris Bryant, and I'll mention this again, is you can play him in the outfield. And with Vientos and Beatty here, the Mets have to think long and hard about putting somebody there that's going to be there and not be able to move them, at least around the field. Let's see. Starlin Castro, nah. Asdrubal Cabrera, that ship set sail. Brandon Drury, his wins above replacement is low, but he's a good pinch hitter. Now here's the big names that are going to be free agents. That are free agents now for Major League Baseball. Carlos Correa, he's got a qualifying offer. In all likelihood, the Yankees are not involved. I haven't heard anything with the Mets, which is fine. He's another one that's a little too into himself. The rumor is that the Tigers are very interested in him. The Tigers have been very active. They got a new catcher in Barnhart. They brought in Eduardo Rodriguez. So that is really the number one team that's going to be on him is the Tigers. Trevor Story, I don't know where he's going. We're here in Houston. We're hearing the Rangers. I haven't really heard much other than those two teams in particular. Interestingly enough, maybe the Tigers. He might be the guy. He might be a guy that could probably do what Simeon did and play a year for another team and play a different position and try to get his value back up. He can still play shortstop, but he might be better off going to a team and playing for a team for 1 year. And I would see him, to be honest with you, playing for the Mets for a year. Maybe the Mets give him a big contract for 1 year. He gets his value back up. Javi Baez. Well, I do have him in the thumbnail, and I think that there's a probably good chance he's probably going to resign with the Mets. I think that would be very reasonable, at least from my standpoint. I have no problem him coming back. But if he would have left, I'm not going to shed tears over it. Corey Seager, I mentioned him. I don't know where he's going. I'm sure the teams that need shortstops, the Rangers, the Astros, the Tigers, he's the best fit for the Yankees. He's the best fit. There's no reason why the Yankees shouldn't sign him. But the Yankees aren't in on any players, and on nobody. It's very shocking that they're not in on anybody. We haven't heard anybody. Like I said, I'm in New York, as you can tell, the accent. They're not involved in anybody. I haven't heard anybody. Well, I heard Starling Marte. That's about it. Total and complete, nothing. Let's look at the left fielders. Marcania, maybe. He's an interesting guy, but I don't know if he's good enough to really help you. Kyle Schwarber interests me a lot because you can DH him. The National League gets a DH from the left field. He's left-handed. He'll replace Conforto. Eddie Rosario, the World Series MVP. Oh, he wasn't the MVP. What am I talking about? Oh, the other guy was. Right? He had a good postseason. Let me see who else. There's really not a lot on this list. Like I said, I mentioned Clint Frazier. Not big on him. Center field, Starling Marte is the number one guy. He's got a lot of teams on him. And the Hut means a lot of teams on him. Many teams. It's funny you should. The Mets, the Marlins. Seems the Marlins are the only team that given them an offer so far. The Phillies, the Yankees, the Astros, and the Rangers. So those are some of the teams that are in on him. The Mets are very interested in him. They've been interested in him for a long time. Um, Chris Taylor. Mets aren't going to be bringing in Chris Taylor because he's got a qualifying offer. That's not going to happen. Brett Gardner, I don't think so. Don't need him. He's washed up. Kevin Pillar. Mutual opt-out. Pretty much nobody after that. Juan Lagares. You want Juan Lagares back? Oh, pass. The right fielders. Nick Castellanos. He's the big guy. Number one guy in this situation. But I don't see the Mets sign him either because of that qualifying offer. Michael Conforto. The Mets will be getting a draft pick for him. That I can guarantee you that. The teams on him are the Mariners, the Phillies, maybe the Yankees, and the Braves. I've heard the Braves. Jorge Soler. I would look at him if I were the Mets. That's a guy I could look at. I don't think that's a bad idea. The DH. Well, good question. I don't think the Mets will be going after guys that are DHs because they can always put a Cano. Robinson Cano, don't you know, left the winter ball down in the Dominican. He hurt his back. He just needs a shot, and he'll be fine. If you know what I mean. You know what I mean. You know what I'm saying. All right, let's look at the starting pitchers, which is a lot, and a lot of them have signed. Max Scherzer was the number one guy on this list. He's not the number one, um, free agent, but he's the number one pitching free agent. And future Hall of Famer, three-time Cy Young Award winner, and just completely, totally madman. Keep an eye on the Mets with him because they're gonna have to overpay if they were to get him. People keep telling me then that's not going to happen. He wants to be on the West Coast. He don't want to be on the East Coast. He was on the East Coast all these years with the Washington Nationals. So keep an eye on him. You heard it here first. That's will be in on him. Kevin Gausman mentioned him. Carlos Rodon. He didn't have a qualifying offer attached to him. He's a guy to keep an eye on with the Mets too. He's left-handed. Clayton Kershaw, I think, will re-sign with the Dodgers. Robbie Ray, the Mets aren't going to touch it because of the qualifying offer. I don't know if he's worth the money that he's probably going to be looking for. I think he might go back to the Blue Jays. Zach Greinke, he's another crazy guy in a different kind of way. Stroman, I mentioned him. I'm not big on Marcus Stroman. The Mets, he's a little too toxic for me. Adam Cobb signed with the Giants. Anthony DeSclafani, he's signed with the Giants. Tyler Anderson, keep an eye on maybe. John Gray, I'm sort of not too big on him. Michael Pineda, I'm not too big on him. After that, it really drops off. Rich Hill, he's too old. If he was like 5 years younger, 10 years younger, maybe. Steven Matz went to the Cardinals. Johnny Cueto, he might be this year's Bartolo Colon. Look at this, Matt Harvey. Matt Harvey had a plus wins above replacement, folks. Look at that. The record was horrible. Pass. Michael Walker, pass. Jose Quintana signed with the Pirates. Yeah, please hit the like button and please subscribe if you're coming through. Josan Chacin, I'd say his name right. He re-signed with the Rockies. Justin Verlander signed a 2-year deal. This is a 2-year deal with the Astros, 1 year and one extension, $50 million. He refused the qualifying offer, but he signed there with the bigger contract. Noah Syndergaard signed with the Angels. A bit of a shock. Scott Kazmir's on here. That's surprising. Matt Moore. Surprised he's still pitching. Jake Arrieta. Let's look at the relievers. Raciel Iglesias. He pitched for the Reds last year, and he pitched for the Angels. He's got a qualifying offer to him. Who knows where he's gonna go? Maybe to Detroit. I don't know. Kenley Jansen. They're all talking about him going back to the um, Dodgers. Colin McHugh. Keep an eye on him. I think that he would be pretty good. You could put him in the bullpen, and he could sort of be a lone man, be a 6-starter, 7-starter. Former Met. Aaron Loop went to the Angels. Keep an eye on Andrew Chafin. I'm surprised he has not signed. He's pretty good. And he had a good year with the Cubs and with the A's last year. So keep an eye on him with the Mets or really any team. Kendall Graveman signed a 3-year deal with the White Sox. Wow. Mark Melanson. Stay in places that there's no pressure. Like the Padres, the Giants, San Diego. Let's see. Brad Hand. Everybody made a big deal on Brad Hand, and he pitched terrible. And you look at his numbers. They I mean, you looked at his numbers from when he pitched with the Mets, but if you watched him, he was a disaster. You know, he was a disaster. Jolie Rodriguez, he signed with the Yankees. Meh. Let's go through a couple. Archie Bradley, he's a free agent. He would not do well here. Joe Kelly. Let's go through the list. Tyler Clippard. You interested in Tyler Clippard? I don't think so. I understand Wade Davis retired today. Another guy at Joe Smith. You want to go down the Joe Smith route again? That's bad memories there. So this is pretty much all the free agents. Free agent relievers. Boy, what a bunch of losers at the end. What? Now, please like this video if you haven't already. We get back to chat. People have been patiently listening and leaving comments. Wolfman evolves. So, Hut, what's your prediction on the Mets offseason? That's a good question. That's the question, isn't it? And so Rourke asked, let me put this up so you can read it. It's a total long shot, but I think Corey Seager offensively will have the most longevity. If the National League takes on DH, he can DH the last 25% of a big deal. But boy, oh boy, is an offensive. Oh, he's incredible. He's an incredible player, and that can't be underscored. How great he is. At big time, not afraid of the big moment. You know. From Greg Zeman, let's hit the like button. Hut has been great. Well, thank you. I take praise whenever I can. Adele Chapman is obviously joking around. I'll take Bartolo back. I don't think so. The Morph Man evolved. Looks like the Mets are going to try to pull off trades. I think the list is not that long unless the Mets somehow persuade several of these guys to come. Not impressed with pitchers here. There are some good pitchers here. You know, obviously Scherzer. Scherzer's an impressive guy, obviously. Let me go back. I'm more interested in the starters. Also hearing about Jerry Familia, that the Red Sox are very interested in him. Can't sort of forget about him. You know, after Max Scherzer, it's a drop off. Now Gausman, he pitched well last year on a really good team. So, Rendon is the guy to be interested in. And then after that, like you said, it's not a lot there, but really, Scherzer's the big guy. You want to get Scherzer if you can. Vintage Skill says this: you don't know half of what you think you do. Calling me MLB players losers. I can say whatever I want. Vintage. Okay. Would you call Tyler Clippard a guy that's a winner or a loser as a player? The loser. I can say whatever I want, just like you can say whatever you want. Okay. You don't know half of what I. Why? Because I didn't play. That's stupid. That's a typical like refrain that you hear sometimes from athletes. Well, you don't know what you're talking about. You didn't play. That doesn't matter. I watched the game probably. Here's the thing about major league players. They 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 train their whole lives to do this stuff, but they don't. Uh, Once they're done, most of them leave. Most of them aren't in the game for 35, 40, 50, 60 years. The fans know more about the game than you would think. And they know more about the players uh, than the players actually do. Back in the 90s, early 90s, late 80s, they asked Vince Coleman. These guys are so focused in on themselves. They don't care about the past. They don't care about players of the past. And then in the 80s and 90s, they asked Vince Coleman, what did he think about Jackie Robinson? He had no clue who he was. No clue. No clue. So don't tell me that I can't like talk about uh and saying that certain players are not winning players. The Mets were 77 and 85. There were a lot of losers in that team. Okay. Okay. Michael Fulton's a great guy. Maybe he'll go on and win an MVP one day. But he's been a 250 hitter here with the Mets. He's a loser. Okay. The way Francisco Lindor has acted here, he's acted like a loser. You know. So, and when I see Steven Matz, I see a guy that when he was here did not have a winning record. He was a loser. His second start as a player, he got hurt in Los Angeles. So I can say whatever I want. There's nothing prevent me from saying it. And I'm saying something that you don't want to hear. You don't like to hear it. But I speak the truth. I speak the truth here and everywhere else on YouTube. Coolio Top Notch. What's up, Coolio? Woohoo! Go to Hut live stream. Love your coverage and hope all is well, Hut. I'm honestly happy the Mets didn't get Matz. You can't handle New York City. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving tomorrow. Yes, everybody in the chat. Please, of course, have a good Thanksgiving and a safe one. Have turkey. Don't listen to what they're telling you and the media and the government. Have turkey. Enjoy your day tomorrow. So, but you could say whatever you want. And, if you don't like what I have to say, you don't have to sub. It's as simple as that. Hold on, I need drink. You know, from Hansel. Hi, Hut. Completely right. Conforto is a loser. Can't perform when he is expected to perform. I have proof that he did not play well. He didn't play well. They said what we have seen. 2016 when they made Michael um, the number 3 hitter on this team. He played so poorly, hit so poorly, that sent him down to AAA. And really, it almost completely destroyed the Mets season because they put so much hope into Michael that it almost ruined his early part of his career. This year, he's a free agent, and he had a complete total disaster of a free agency season. Now he's going to get a very good contract, probably get 4 or 5 years, I would assume. And um, you know, he'll probably he would be better off going to a place like Seattle. I don't think he should go to the Philly. He should go to a small town, maybe San Francisco, Seattle, where he's from. There's no pressure there. San Diego, maybe someplace in Texas. Um, Those are the places that he should go. Okay, to have a very good career. Philly's very much like New York. He didn't play well; they will boo the hell out of him. They're even more merciless there than they are here. Um, that's my opinion. From Funny Cloud, no baseball in 2022. Is that a statement or a question? We will have baseball. When's it going to start? It's up to that commissioner. That commissioner's a disaster. Paid and bought and paid by the communist Chinese. So that is something we have to keep an eye on. He's a disaster, and we're gonna have to, as fans, we're gonna have to put a lot of pressure on him. And he doesn't like being booed, and he doesn't like the pressure under any circumstances. So we got to keep a sort of put his feet to the fire. You know, um, that's for sure. Now, please like this video if you haven't already, and please subscribe to the Baseball Hut. Yeah, so I implemented something a little different here, as you noticed. That the chat is exclusive to uh, subscribers. Um, to cut down on the bots, to cut down on a lot of shenanigans that happen in these live streams. I kind of learned it right before, and I was playing with my other channels to see if I could find it, and then I was able to figure it out. So that'll be a new feature on the live streams, which is an initial live stream, and then on the Baseball Hut too. A couple of things. I will have a live stream on Friday, so I wasn't really planning on having a live stream today, because last night when this whole thing with Steve and Matz happened, I was just so late at night. I was like, I'm not doing a stream now. Not doing a stream now. Um, but in all likelihood, unless something crazy happens, I'll have a live stream here at the Baseball Hut, this channel, on Friday in the evening. Got to keep an eye out for it. And I'll have a live stream on Saturday with the Baseball Hut too. I was not too happy with the result of my live stream on Monday. Was not happy with the amount of people in there, and I felt like everything was all screwed up in there. So Saturdays will be the night for the Baseball Hut too, and then we'll be back again on Sunday on this channel, discussing the Mets during the regular live streams I do on there. So I'm gonna have a lot of stuff, a lot of live streaming to do, and we'll have videos coming up periodically. I need to keep an eye on, and hopefully we'll have some moves. Somebody mentioned in the chat that I mentioned Nick Plumer. Nick Plumer is a someone they picked up from the Cardinals. They picked them off, just picked them up. I don't know. I think they picked them up off of waivers or whatnot as a minor league player. He's Mets number 9 prospect now. Also, they picked up off of waivers Antonio Santos. I haven't seen these guys. Couldn't tell you anything about them. None of you have either. None of you have either. So, but we will be back on Friday doing a stream, and we're gonna have fun there. And I try to do my best with these streams. Try to be very organized. I organized myself really well tonight. Did not organize myself on Monday at all. So. Mothman Evolved. I noticed another YouTube copying your intro with the music. Real shame mistreats me in his streams too. Well, that's not very nice, Mothman. You're very nice. You're very nice. I think I have an idea who it is. That's not very nice. That's not very nice. You're very nice. That's not too nice to do that. Especially since you're a big Met fan. You love the Mets. The Mets, we deal with a lot of nonsense with the media and from other Met fans online that like to make fun of us. I had so many nasty comments. Marvin asked us, why should a top free agent come to New York without a manager? Well, why don't you answer your own question? What does that matter? Why does that matter? Marvin. Starvin' Marvin. That's a good question. You have to ask yourself that question. I don't think it really matters with these players who the manager is. And think about it. If you have a good team, what does the manager matter? Well, if the manager's a bad guy. Well, as long as the manager is not like texting women, there shouldn't be any controversy. Okay. The Mets will get a manager before you know it. And the managers, I would mention, there's only two teams that need managers. So the Mets have plenty of candidates to pick from. And I'm sure I haven't heard anything about the Mets. We've heard names, in the last, couple of days, last week, we heard Buck Showalter and Brad Ausmus. Those were the two big names. So if those are the two big names out there, I don't think any player is going to have like a meltdown that Buck is the manager or if Ausmus is the manager. I don't think it really matters at this point in time. This is not the 1980s. It's not the 1990s. All right. The world has changed, obviously, and certainly changed in baseball. It doesn't matter. These guys are collaborators. They collaborate with the front office. So it doesn't really matter anymore. How old are you, Marvin? You seem like a very old guy. Not too many guys named Marvin in their 20s. I always can tell, folks. Hey, I can always tell. Whoa. Ding, 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 ding. I can always tell. I can always tell when people come into the chat how old they are. Thank you, Joey, for the great and very generous super chat. That is very nice of you. Very, very nice. I appreciate it. I can always tell by the comments, by some of the people in the chat or in my comments in the videos, how old they are. Because it's not the younger fans that give me the hardest time. The guys that give me the hardest time are the older Met fans. The older Met fans that look at being a Met fan as being in a relationship with another woman, with the woman, and it's very uncomfortable. They they'll use references. When who the hell was I talking about? It was Scherzer. I did the video on Scherzer, and one of the guys in the comments said, you know what? Why don't the Mets go and bring in Nolan Ryan? Well, obviously he's a guy that remembers Nolan Ryan as a Mets starter. I knew the guy had to be in his 60s. I've been hit so much over the last couple of days by older Met fans who said nothing when the Mets were in first place, but yet they complain when the Mets are struggling, when the Mets don't get a player that they think they should get. And I didn't hear from a lot of people from almost all season. And you see Marvin's thinking now. He's thinking, oh, that I got him. But thank you, Marvin. Thank you, thank you, Joey, for the very nice, generous, and wonderful super chat. But again, love talking about the Mets. We don't love the Mets here. I do. But I do get a lot of comments from Met fans that are very extremely bitter, and a lot of them have been Met fans since really the '60s, and they sort of forget about '69, they forget about '86, and some of the other great years, and all they want to do is complain about the '70s, and they want to complain about Wilpon. The Wilpons aren't here anymore, and I will mention this that they haven't won in 35 years. Um, They haven't won in a long time. And they have a lot of losers in the Met front office that are running things. Hopefully, they're starting to push them out in terms of just getting them out of here. I think that's one of the reasons, I think, to a certain degree, why they had a difficult time finding a general manager. Hopefully, this guy comes in, he starts to clean house slowly, push people out. I think that's important. Del Chapman wonders, I guess, Chapman, Beltran in contention. For manager, he's got to get back in the Major League Baseball. I think the Mets have to find a guy with as a manager. They have to find a manager that has experience. The last three guys had no experience, and they have to find somebody that is going to calm the fan base down and somebody's going to run the game with no problem. A guy like Buck Showalter is the perfect guy. He's hungry still. He sees guys like Dusty Baker doing great and LaRussa doing well. He's probably chomping at the bit to get back into the dugout. And really, the Mets is the opening. That's the perfect guy right now. The perfect guy 2 years ago was Joe Girardi. Last year was Joe Girardi. Well, 2 years ago, am I talking about? And they screwed up and they hired a Beltron because the owner didn't really like uh, Girardi because he's too stiff. Girardi didn't want to deal with the owner coming in and talking about baseball. You know, but this is how it is. Look, again, like I said, I can go through the managers again. Buck Showalter, Brad Ausmus. These are guys that Billy Epler liked a lot in Los Angeles. When they fired Ausmus, they were going to name. He wanted to name Buck Showalter, but the owner out there said no, and they brought in Joe Madden. And Joe Madden's a disaster. If you notice their record out there with Joe Madden, it's been bad. And when he was in Chicago, it went bad when the team went bad. When the team was good, he had a good record. So to go back to what was said in the chat earlier from Marvin, the Mets, it doesn't matter who the manager is. If you have a good team, it's going to matter. Now, I was not a fan of Mickey Callaway because he didn't know how to run the game. When you screw up the lineup and you bat guys out of order, it means you don't know what the hell you're doing. And I was not a big fan at all of Louis Rojas. I saw enough of him. He's a stiff. Nice guy, again, but a loser. He's a stiff. He was not. He was a guy that Kenneth Flood says, don't want Buck. He has a stanky connection. That was 30 years ago. That was 25 years ago that he was fired. He's been around now. He's with the Diamondbacks. He built the Diamondback organization up. A year after he left to win the World Series, he was able to sort of create the infrastructure with the Rangers to where at the end of the decade they went into the World Series twice, 2 years in a row. And he did a fairly good job in Baltimore until they pulled the rug under him and they basically stopped spending money. Nicole Wood wants to know, what do you think of Buck Showalter as a coach? Well, as a coach is one thing. As manager, he's a very good manager. And he's won a lot of games. 1,500 games. He's got a winning record as a manager. He's excellent. He's very prepared. You're not going to see the nonsense that the Mets had in that clubhouse. That clubhouse was a disaster. Complete, total, and utter disaster last year. And really the last few years. Ever since David Wright retired, they have had no leadership. That's why I'm not crying over the fact that um, Conforto left and is going to leave. He didn't provide any leadership. He think he would have said something about wouldn't have gotten in the face of Jeff McNeil and said, "Look, we don't do this here. You have to listen to the manager and to the coaches about this thing with the chefs." That little fight never should have happened. If the Mets had any leadership, that would have cut off at the legs right away. That wouldn't have happened with David Wright in that clubhouse. That I could tell you. That would not have happened at all. From Joey, I really think Buck Showalter is the man for the job. You wouldn't scratch your head with any of his managers. Well, you might. But it's more about running the game. And he's very good at running the bullpen. That's really a thing. Now, I would mention that they did a good job with the bullpen last year. That the Mets bullpen was very good. Although Diaz was shaky, he was much better than he was 2 years ago in 2019. Now, people are going to ask me, well, what about Diaz? Are the Mets going to trade him? No. The Mets are going to have him for another year. He'll be a free agent after the season. So I don't see Diaz being moved. He'll be the Mets closer going into 2022. Joey Osa says Conforto wasn't a leader. Hansel says, so tired of people calling Conforto a leader. I like Michael, but he's not He didn't scare me at the plate. He didn't scare me. If I'm like on the other team, he doesn't scare you. You could pitch to him. Pete scares you. Just use Pete as an example. Um, Now Pete has a hole in his swing. He's a low ball hitter. You pitch that ball in the lower part of the plate. That ball's going to go a mile. He does have a blind spot up and in, which most great hitters have anyway. But Michael, you can pitch to Michael. He doesn't scare you. He's not a 3 hitter. He's a 6 hitter on a really good lineup. You could pitch to him, you know. But he's going to be gone. That contract with him is going to take a while. He's going to be one of the last players to sign, I would think. But he needs to go to, like I said, he needs to go to a small market. He can't be, he can't be here. He can't be in a big market. Him being in Philadelphia doesn't sound like a good idea to me. Better off going to Seattle, somewhere in Texas, somewhere out in the Midwest, maybe even Atlanta, where there is no pressure. New York, Philadelphia, that's not going to cut it for him. I mean, to be honest with you. Maybe the Nationals, put him in left field. I just don't see him really succeeding at a big city. He's a nice guy, but I'm not a fan. Unless you have the 2016, I kind of had an idea. He's so up and down, his numbers, and the fact that he was on a free agent run and he did absolutely nothing. He did not have Marcus. If he had Marcus Simeon's year, the Mets would have won the division. They would have ran away with the division. The Braves wouldn't have brought in all these outfielders and made all these little moves to get them into the postseason. If he'd had the season that he was supposed to have with 30 home runs, 95 RBIs, even hit 250, the Mets would have won the division. Even without Jacob deGrom, they would have had a bigger lead. They might have rested deGrom a lot more. Now, deGrom said that he would have pitched if they were in it. So unfortunately, that didn't happen. He had a horrible year. He had a terrible year. So it wasn't really conducive to anything that I don't know what kind of contract he's going to get. Prior to the year, he probably would have gotten something close to what George Springer got. And that's the guy I wanted last year, was George Springer, because George Springer was a guy that, quite frankly, he's a leader. He's the guy that the Mets should have gotten. But obviously they weren't going to give him all those years, and he had a bad year this past season because of the fact he had all these terrible injuries to his body. But it's a shame about Conforto, about the season that he had. I felt for the longest time that he was never going to sign a long-term deal with the Mets because he's a client of Scott Boras. And because he's a client of Scott Boras, he's not going to sign. And it turned out he's not. No surprise there. The surprise was Noah not re-signing with the Mets, going to the Angels of all places. How much better are the Angels after making those moves for him and Loop? I couldn't tell you. Let's see what's going on Twitter. See if there's anything interesting before I end the live stream. So please like this video if you haven't already. And if you like to hear a real New Yorker discussing the Mets, you want to subscribe to this channel. Seems like WFN's trying to find things to do. They posted a video of Carter Roberts complaining about no Met managers holding back the free agency. And really, it's the city. So no news right now. If there's any news with the Mets, I will do a video. Either on this channel or the other channel. You need to keep an eye on it. Please subscribe to the Baseball Hut too. I should put the link in here if I could find it. Oh, wait a minute. Let me go find it. And of course, if you're watching this channel, watching this video on live stream, please subscribe and leave comments. People do leave a lot of comments. So here's the link to the Baseball Hut too. So if you go there and subscribe there, I basically same shit, different day. You know how it is. you know. Uh, all right, let me see. From Nicole Wood, I heard that Mauricio and Dom Smith could be dealt to the Reds for Castillo. Would you do it, Hud? Is that a good deal? Well, first of all, I'd like to ask you, Nicole, where did you hear that? Secondly, where's Dom going to play? Dom is the first baseman. They still have Joey Votto there. So what are they going to do? They're going to DH Joey? Is Joey still good? Let's take a look at Joey's numbers. Joey drove in 99 runs. He's still good. Um, that seems a little low value. That seems kind of low in terms of the value for a very good starter. That doesn't seem like a fair trade if I were the Reds. Would I do? Sure. I don't like Dom Smith anyway. And when's Mauricio going to play? They say he's probably long term. He's going to be a third baseman. And Castillo did not have a good year last year. 8-16, 3.98 ERA. That doesn't sound like a. He didn't sound like an ace to me after that season. That's a surprising rumor. I would not. The Reds wouldn't do that. The Reds would not do that at all because I don't think that Dom's good enough to bring in a player like that. And he's got another 2 years before free agency. Yeah, that's not. They're gonna want young players. They want young players on that team. What a weird season. Just looking at it. He pitched. He led the league in starts. This is Castillo. Led the league in walks. Nick Rickman asks, "Who did the Mets get from the Rockies?" What are you talking about? Oh, Antonio Santos, middle reliever. They just picked him up off of waivers. Hello, Steve Perez. As he went 8-16. Yeah, I agree with Joe. That's a made up. That's a made up trade. That's not any good. The Reds would never make that trade. They didn't want guys that are like 1 year of. They don't have to pay arbitration. With Don, they have to pay arbitration. They don't want to do that, and he's not good anyway. So I want to thank you all for coming by. We're going to end the live stream now. I'm tired. I'm tired. But I'll be back again on Friday in the evening. Talking about our favorite team. Maybe we can talk about the things I might have gotten at the store for Black Friday. Blue and Orange Friday. And we'll see how that all works out. But a couple of things before we go. The Mets are interested in Kevin Gausman. They told to Marcus Stroman. Oh, I didn't mention, again, Javi Baez. They're still talking to him, and he's very close. Steve Perez, I don't know when you started streaming, but did you talk to Nick Plumer sign yet? Yes, I did. Like in the beginning of the stream. But Javi Baez is out there. Obviously, the owner loves him. Had dinner with him after the season. The Mets really like him, and I know a lot of Met fans like him. I'm sort of half and half. If he signs, great. If he doesn't sign, I'm good with that too. Because you can always use the money for other places. But the Mets have so many holes. They need a third baseman. They have no offense. They have no left fielder. They have really no right fielder. They have a hole behind the plate, but that will be replaced with Francisco Alvarez when he's ready to come up to the big leagues. They need some pitching in terms of starting rotation. Other than that, everything's great. Obviously, the bullpen's the only place that is doing well, but they lost Loop and our buddy Familia will not be back. So I want to thank you all for coming by. Please subscribe to the Baseball Hut. Please leave likes in the video before you go. Helps the channel. Thank you, Joey, for the super chat. Have a good night, and of course, let's go Mets.